Hello there. Welcome to Blitz Transmissions. I'm Tommy, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the Mandalorian and Grogu movie and why I think expectations might be a little too high for this film. If you weren't already aware, a Mandalorian and Grogu movie was announced in 2024 as being the return to the movie theaters for Star Wars, the first Star Wars movie theatrical release since 2019 with Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. This movie is obviously going to be centered around its namesake, the Mandalorian, aka Din Djarin, and Grogu, aka Baby Yoda. This movie is expected to be released in spring of 2026. I'm guessing April or May of 2026, probably going right around the Star Wars Celebration 2026, if there is one. We don't know quite yet. And there's been a lot of rumors popping up about this movie in 2025. Now, if you don't want to hear these rumors, and do keep in mind, they are just rumors, not guaranteed to be coming true. However, I do have on pretty good authority that these rumors are true. So if you're not a fan of that kind of stuff and you want to wait for an official trailer to come out or an official reveal from Lucasfilm or Star Wars or both, then go ahead and click off this video or check out one of my other videos. Now, these rumors have been popping up in the last couple weeks, really just kicking off 2025 with a lot of different rumors. The first big one is that Jeremy Allen White, who is known for acting as the Bear and other roles as well, of course, is going to be voicing an adult Rhoda the Hutt. Rhoda the Hutt Lit is a character that was first introduced in the Clone Wars movie back in 2008 and showed up maybe once or twice in the Clone Wars TV series. This character is Jabba the Hutt's son, and he is obviously, as a Hutt and as the son of Jabba, going to be heavily involved with the crime Hutt families. And of course, the other rumor that's been circling around a lot recently is that the main villain of the movie is going to be the bounty hunter Embo. Embo is another character that's originally created in the Star Wars The Clone Wars TV series. I could totally see how Embo and Rhoda would be connected, considering that Embo did work for the Hutt clan in the Clone Wars series. We saw him doing jobs for them around the time that Darth Maul and Savage Opress and Pre Vizsla were taking over the galaxy. Embo isn't really a good guy or a bad guy. He just takes jobs that are given to him. At one point, he does try to kill Padme in season 6 of the show, but earlier on in the show, he was on Felucia fighting side by side with Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka against Hondo Ohnaka. So he's not really, in my opinion, a determined bad guy. I think he's just a bounty hunter. All of this to say, I've been seeing a lot of discourse about these rumors, most namely the Embo rumor in the Star Wars community and by Star Wars content creators, talking about how this is a bit disappointing and they think that it's going to make the movie fall flat for them if this is the case. I've been seeing a lot of talk about Embo being too minor of a character and people not really caring about him as a villain, and same goes for Rhoda. I've been seeing people saying it's a silly idea or even a stupid choice. And this is where I think that the fandom might be having expectations that are a little more than what this movie is trying to be. Since day one, The Mandalorian has always been described by its creators, both Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, as being based on a spaghetti western, kind of an adventure of the week series, if you will. Spaghetti westerns have been extremely popular since the 1960s, and they've been seen both in movie theaters and as weekly television series. The Mandalorian has also been compared by its creators to shows like Flash Gordon, again, a weekly adventure of the week style show. And keeping that in mind, I think it should be no surprise that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie would not be this monumental chapter in the Mandalorian story and the surrounding Mandoverse, as we've come to call it as the fandom, that includes things like the Book of Boba Fett and the Ahsoka series. I think that this chapter in the story is going to be less of a pivotal moment and rather a way to move the story along. For Din Djarin and Grogu to get in cahoots with characters like Harrison Dula and Carson Teva at the same time, there needs to be a threat that's big enough for them to need to team up to fight. And I think that with Mando having the established connection of Carson Teva with the New Republic, quick. I do think this movie is going to be a great way to move that plot along and get us together with characters like Hera and now Ezra, who's back in the Star Wars galaxy, as opposed to doing another whole season of The Mandalorian, which would be just stretched out another 8 episodes just to get to this point where we want to move the story along to the inevitable Heir to the Empire movie that Dave Filoni is also working on. I think something that's kind of frustrating to me, honestly, is this expectation that everything that comes out that's Star Wars needs to be this insanely serious and gritty and pivotal moment, or else it's considered bad. And that's why I get a little frustrated. What's wrong with lighter fare? What's wrong with a lighter note in the Star Wars story, especially in the story of the Mandoverse? I mean, we had some pretty heavy stuff that we just came off of, like the attack on Mandalore, where the Mandalorians take back their planet, and as well as the events of Ahsoka. I mean, we've had some pretty heavy, very serious stuff happening. You know, whether you like it or not, that's completely subjective. But again, I think looking at the story beats that have just occurred, I think we had some pretty heavy stuff going on, and we need to kind of get these characters together. We know in the leaked trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu shown at D23, they do interact with Zeb, and I think Zeb is a great connection to get them in contact with Hera. I think that this movie is really just a bridging the gap. I don't think that it's really going to be this monumental, character development movie. I think it's just going to be a fun movie that families can go watch. Because at the end of the day, this kind of Star Wars is for family, much more so than a show like Andor, which is clearly aimed at adult fans. The Mandalorian has always been at its heart a family watch. The Mandalorian and Grogu themselves are extremely recognizable characters. I would even argue that they're as recognizable now as the likes of Darth Vader or the Imperial Stormtrooper. Everyone, and I mean everyone, that sees a picture of Grogu or Din Djarin knows the faces of Baby Yoda and Mando. Everybody knows their names, whether they like Star Wars or even know Star Wars at all. These characters have become so ingrained in pop culture and just general media as of the last 5 or so years. They've been such a smash hit that I don't see how this movie wouldn't perform well, because you're going to have so many casuals and so many people that know nothing about Star Wars taking their kids to come see this movie. So why not make it an entry-level, fun position for people to kind of jump into the middle of the story? At the end of the day, that was part of the intrigue about the original Star Wars, A New Hope, was that you were jumping into the middle of the story. And for people who aren't familiar with the story of The Mandalorian and the Mandoverse, this is a great jumping on point where they can catch up on some older stuff after they've seen the movie if they find it that interesting, or just continue to follow along with what comes out in the theaters. And I think introducing some more inconsequential characters like Rhoda the Hutt, who is Jabba the Hutt's son, that's fun for fans to know. And, having an inconsequential character like Embo, where his death or living by the end of the movie isn't consequential at all to the overarching story, is a great way to bring in new fans to this story and also just give us a fun movie to watch. Now, while I do think this is going to be lighter fare, I do also predict that we will get some sort of Thrawn adjacent reveal at the end of the movie that will kind of launch us into the final chapter here. I think this is going to be a way for, like I said, the Mandalorian to get teamed up with the New Republic, really get buddy-buddy with them through this movie so that he's willing to fight Grand Admiral Thrawn and the return of the Imperial strength. But at the end of the day, yeah, I think that I've been seeing a lot of negative talk about this movie, and I feel like we're too early on to really have definitive opinions on what this movie will be. I could be totally wrong in this video. This movie could be the biggest, most lore-changing, most retconning thing to ever come out, and I, would be happily wrong in that way because, shock would be awesome as well, as long as it's done well, but at the end of the day, for me, I'm so ready for just a fun adventure with The Mandalorian and Grogu. Very similar to how most of season 1 of The Mandalorian was, the spaghetti western, the adventure of the week. And it was fun just week to week to watch what kind of trouble Mando and Grogu would get themselves into. Let me know what you think. Do you think The Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be lame? Do you think it's going to suck? Are you even excited for this movie? Make sure to let me know in the comments. I'd love to discuss it with you. And as always, if you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you are an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this video early. If you'd like access to that, as well as other benefits like monthly giveaways and more, the link is in the description below to join that Patreon. If you'd like to as well, you could join my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion. Link for that's in the description below, as well as my Discord and all of my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off. All units, fire at will. Squad 2, pick your targets. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. I'm hit. Where's our reinforcements?